Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the schoolyard fight in the Conservative Party's disgraced MP, Andrew Bridgen, picks a fight with Matt Hancock, threatening him with legal action. You would think a man who has recently been accused of lying in court by a senior judge would want to steer clear of legal challenges for a while, wouldn't you? But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So this could be a right clown show. Andrew Bridgen has completely gone off the deep end here. A little background to the MP, Andrew Bridgen. For those who don't know him, he was a Conservative MP. He's just had the whip removed for spreading disinformation about vaccines earlier this week. Quite why it took as long as it did to have the whip removed, I really can't say. But what did it in the end was at least agreeing with someone who compared the COVID vaccination programme to the Holocaust. Yeah. Bridgen himself is currently suspended from the House of Commons. Completely unrelated matter. That's for bringing the House into disrepute on much the same lines as Owen Paterson, you know, the scandal that started to break Boris Johnson, for breaking the rules on paid lobbying, failing to declare important interests, you know, bribery and corruption. During a legal case over the family home last year, the High Court judge presiding said that Bridgen had lied under oath. The judge, Brian Rawlings, said that Bridgen behaved in an abusive, arrogant and aggressive way and was so dishonest that his claims could not be taken at face value. I have no idea why, if you're asking, I have absolutely no idea why, if a senior judge is convinced that he deliberately lied in court, Bridgen has not faced prosecution for perjury. There was a time, you don't think, oh, yeah, Tory MP or, you know, little deal, stuff like that. No, the Tories don't seem interested in covering for him. And there was a time when, even when they were in government, Tory MPs faced perjury trials. When I was growing up, what do you have? Jonathan Aitken, Jeffrey Archer, they both went to jail. Conservatives were in power at the time, I think. Jeffrey Archer, I'm not so sure. I think so, though. But now, Bridgen, after all that, after he hasn't finished, he's now turned into a rabid anti-vaxxer. And when the suspension of the party whip was announced, several Tory MPs all publicly called him out. I got the impression a number of them must have been quite upset with him for a while, because there was just like this flood of condemnation of what he'd said when he had the whip removed. Something, you know, that they wouldn't have thought of doing if he'd have remained a colleague. But anyway, undeterred by his earlier failures in matters of justice in both the High Court and the Standards Committee of the House of Commons, Bridgen seems like he fancies another crack at going to court. One of the MPs who called Bridgen out is another one who recently had the party whip withdrawn, former Health Secretary and professional camel muncher Matt Hancock. So why would Bridgen have it in for Hancock in particular? Well, Matt Hancock really went for it. He didn't just call out Bridgen's comments on Twitter or his support of the comments on Twitter. He stood up in Parliament to ask a question at Prime Minister's Questions on Wednesday, where he asked the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, to denounce the anti-Semitic, anti-vax conspiracy theories that Bridgen had been propagating, he said. Sunak, of course, said that he condemned the comments with a particular focus on the link between vaccinations and the Holocaust, which Sunak also agreed were anti-Semitic. Then, a couple of days later, yesterday, Bridgen took to Twitter to say that Hancock should publicly apologise for calling him an anti-Semite, or he will be calling his legal team. Well, no. I'm not a legal expert. In fact, that's going to become apparent later on this video, but I will offer a bit of advice for Mr. Bridgen. His legal team are likely to advise him to go on a long holiday. For a couple of reasons, I feel. First of all, it's generally agreed that comparing things to the Holocaust that are not remotely comparable to the Holocaust is anti-Semitic. Now, yes, in a court of law, it would come down, I suppose, to a legal definition, and I think it meets that, but I'm not a legal expert. Now, I will say the use of anti-Semitic language, just like the use of any form of racist language, doesn't automatically make you an anti-Semite or racist. I suppose you could use something inadvertently, thoughtlessly, clumsily with your analogies. But then Hancock didn't actually call Bridgen an anti-Semite. He called his comments anti-Semitic. which if you want to make a distinction, there's the distinction. I also can't imagine a court accepting Bridgen's defence that comparing a vaccination programme, the accepted universal healthcare method of vaccination, with the Holocaust is reasonable. I'm not sure there's a judge in the land who will say so. But that's just what is likely to sink any legal challenge if it ended up in court. Like if it was someone like me saying that, instead of just reporting what others have said. If I came out and said that and he took offence of it and threatened me with court action, it could go to court. It could go to court. But before I get on to the second reason why I felt that this threat from Bridgen is pointless, but I am going to bring in an expert legal opinion as well. So some of you will have already twigged, perhaps, just as I did. But let's consider the sort of threat. So people, when they feel wronged, often threaten legal action as a way of lashing out at their perceived aggressor. You know, most of the time, it's an impotent, idle threat. Because, first of all, it's not always the case that someone has unlawfully wronged you. Defamation's actually there's a quite high bar to meet. People automatically assume that if someone says something about you that's untrue or hurtful, that therefore it's defamation. No, it's not. That's not good enough. And also, legal cases cost a fortune. It's beyond the capacity for most people to actually pay to follow up on any threats of taking someone to court. People are often quick to cry defamation. It's very hard to prove, and unless you've got serious money, you are never going to put it to the test. But also consider that when Matt Hancock asked his question, I'll post the video clip on Twitter in the description below so you can hear it for yourself, Sunak completely agreed with him. Now, given that the Prime Minister also confirmed that he considered the comments to be anti-Semitic, shouldn't Bridgen also be threatening Sunak with legal action? Or does he not fancy a legal case against a man worth £250 million when, I don't know what sort of legal representation Bridgen can manage, but let's look at the facts. He has just been evicted from his home as a result of that court case last week. He lost that court case. That must have cost him a few quid. I don't know how much he's made from his dodgy lobbying, but I'm not sure he's going to be the richest man. Is he really going to be able to assemble a top legal team? I certainly don't think it's anything to take on the son-in-law of one of India's richest billionaires. So Sunak out of the question. But all of these issues aside, and certainly the reason why he couldn't take Sunak to court, one ace I thought was in Hancock's hand that makes him untouchable. He made his comments in the House of Commons as an elected MP. Anything he says under those circumstances, whether true or not, whether fair or not, is protected by parliamentary privilege. It means he can't be sued. The rule prevents MPs from being sued for anything they say in Parliament. The purpose of the power is so that MPs can call out shady practices, even of the very wealthy and powerful, without the fear of expensive, vexatious lawsuits ruining them financially. In fact, an MP from the North East used their parliamentary privilege to do just such a thing, and about Teesside free ports, I think, earlier this week. So even if what Hancock had said was untrue, or even just unfair, and I'm not sure there's a legal argument that it was, can't touch him. And Bridgen's been an MP for nearly 13 years now and must know about parliamentary privilege. He also must know that the threat of legal action would be laughed at by Hancock on that basis, because he's also been an MP for a very long time and knows it. But I will just add at the end. So, in amongst all this, I was posting various comments, and a professor of law on Twitter, Paul Burnell, suggested that because Hancock posted the comments on Twitter, it could actually give Bridgen a route to a legal case. That he can't sue him for what he said in Parliament, in the House of Commons, but he can for saying the same thing on Twitter. Now, he's not suggesting that Bridgen has got a legal leg to stand on here. He's not suggesting Bridgen could win the case, but that it could go to court if he insists on pursuing it. I am just going to say, obviously I'm not a legal expert, and he is. I would just say, personally, I would find it odd that you can be protected from saying something in the House of Commons, but suddenly not protected because those same words are reported elsewhere. I mean, in this case, yes, it's the same MP reporting those words, but it's the same words. It's not like he's embellishing. I could understand if he said something in the comments, then he said something else somewhere else, where he said the same thing, but then added a bit in or embellished it or, turned it into something else. I could get that. But this was literally word for word what he'd said in the comments, an abridged version, but still word for word. Not a single word in the Twitter statement was not mentioned in the same context in the comment statement. But it is what it is. It is what it is. You know, he's used Twitter, I just think, to distribute what he said in the House of Commons. Yes, he posted a statement, but it's the same. He didn't say anything in the statement that wasn't clear in the Commons statement. So I just think that is a weakness in parliamentary privilege, if that's the case. You know, if you can use the tweet to go to court. But anyway, like I said, I'm not legally trained. Professor Bernal is highly trained. So all I can say is if Bridgen somehow has the money to pursue this, and he has actually completely lost his marbles and decides he's going to, I think Matt Hancock, he made a few quid in the jungle, didn't he? So we can probably assemble a legal team to fight it. We may be treated to a sequel to this particular clown watch later this year, because Bridgen has said if Hancock does not remove the comments within 3 days and publicly apologise, he will be taking him to court. All right, then. Well, he actually hasn't said he'll take him to court. He just said he'll hear from his legal team. But, you know, if you're not going to threaten court action, what's a letter from a lawyer? For nothing. So maybe next year. Or maybe the year after, because, you know, these legal cases take their time, especially when they're vexatious. You know, they, as far as I can tell, they pretty much drag on until one side runs out of money. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.